ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Derek J. Fields, and welcome to another episode of Play the Tape. My guest today is someone that I grew up with, uh, my best friend, uh, someone that stayed down the street from me, uh, someone that I went to school with. Uh, Someone that knows me pretty well. There has been gaps in time, but they always say when it's a close friend, close family, it never you could pick up from where you left off, and that's what we are going to do today. I always say this before I start any show. Full disclaimer: I am not and we are not licensed, trained, or certified social workers, clinical health professionals, or either drug and alcohol counselors. I do have those that come on the show and in the past and in the future to give a different perspective of the treatment and the recovery part of that aspect in mental health and in addiction. But what we do here at Play the Tape, we are a community, a platform of advocacy, support, and community for people with mental health conditions and substance use disorder and recovery, which is inspirational change moving forward. That's how I look at it. I don't look at recovery as just exclusively for mental health and for substance use. Recovery can be anything that is positive, inspirational change moving forward. For instance, going outside to get some sun on your face, going outside to appreciate the rain, going to help, for me, help my dad mow the grass or tell my wife that I love her or call up my son and give him a hug or a kiss. That's recovery. What we're doing today and Play the Tape is recovery. So I want to introduce my guest. Again, she's my sister, my best friend, someone I've known for a long time. And I'm very excited for her to be here. She's coming to share her experience, strength, and hope, to share her testimony. Without further ado, Sharice.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Derek. This is good. I'm thankful. So, a little bit about me and my journey. I grew up in a Christian household, and the sentiment was Pentecostal Christian household, and so the sentiment was, everything. God's gonna fix everything. You don't need mental health was not really addressed. It wasn't looked at as a real thing, as a sickness, as an illness, as an anything. It was more of a, whatever's going on in your mind, whatever's going on in your head, God is going to fix it. You're going to be fine. It was really kind of looked at as a not a big deal is kind of how I grew up looking at mental health. And that stuck with me throughout my as a teenager, it stuck with me throughout adulthood until after I got married. My husband was in the military, he was in the army, and when he came out with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. And for me in the beginning, because of my background and what I thought of mental health, I thought it was nothing. I thought he could just feel better. Just feel better. I'll talk to you, we'll talk about it, and you can just feel better. Snap out of it was kind of my thought. I thought when he didn't want to do anything, when he was laying around on the couch, I thought of it as laziness. It it just never dawned on me that it was a real thing because of how I grew up looking at mental health. And it wasn't until I started seeing things myself and he began to share some things with me. And I'll never forget, he one day we were talking and he said, if I could stop being like this, I would. And I think that was really the moment for me that it's no longer just snap out of it, just get over it. He
Right.
couldn't. He couldn't just it's not that easy. And I think it's hard for people, and I can say myself because I was there, it's hard for us to look at mental healthness as a real sickness, as a real thing, and not something that's fake, especially if you have not experienced it or have not known someone personally who's experienced it. It's easy to brush it off as a nothing. It's easy to brush it off as laziness. It's easy to brush it off as you just don't want to get better. And that's not true. true. And I'm so grateful that if nothing else I was to pull from this is to know that mental health exists,
Hmm.
that it's no different than someone who has cancer and has to be treated. Mental health has to be treated too. It's not a just going to go away. And if nothing else came from this, I am grateful that I learned that and that I can share that with other people. And even with my immediate family, like my parents, my siblings, they had no idea that it was a real thing either. It was always embedded in us that it was just get over it. You're okay. Get up, face the day, you're okay. And
Right.
so I'm glad that I'm able to understand that now and at least share that with other people. Um, lack of knowledge is a horrible thing. The Bible says people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge. And I think what we don't know.
Right. Right. Was your husband the first? Because I think I heard you say that was your first time experiencing mental health. Did you growing up in that Pentecostal house with it was you get over it, God will work it out, have faith. Were you ever exposed to mental health on anyone in your family, or were you before your husband saw any mental health issues or concerns that you might?
So I think growing up, I didn't know that that's what it was. Uh, I was experiencing things, and anxiety, a lot of anxiety, but I didn't know that that's what it was called. I didn't know it had a name. I didn't know what it was until my husband. So, and even seeing it in other people, when other people showed signs of depression or anxiety, looking back now, I see that that's what it was, but at the time I had no idea.
Was it, if you could, um, what examples of anxiety that you know now it was back in your childhood or early adulthood that you was like, okay, that you could pinpoint a specific moment, like, okay, that was anxiety? Or could you give us an example of what that looked like back then that you didn't know it was anxiety, but that feeling, you had that feeling of
Yeah, sure.
unease? Hmm.
So growing up, I always looked for approval from my father, which I think a lot of people do, a lot of girls do with dads, a lot of people, kids in general, they look for that approval from their parents. And so in my house, my dad was always about money. He was always about education and being the smartest and being the best. And so I always a B wasn't enough. I never got praise for getting a B. I never got praise for getting an A. I never got praise for doing good because it was always you can do better. And I realized that as I went into my teenage years and when I went off to college, there was this fear, this gripping fear that I wouldn't be able to do enough. I wouldn't be able to be good enough. That no matter how much I studied, I wouldn't pass. I wouldn't, and that gripping fear, I came to realize wasn't just fear.
Mm.
It was anxiety. I couldn't at some moments I I couldn't do things. I was so that fear gripped me so hard that it was hard for me to take a test. It was hard for me to focus in a class. I had to get to a place where I was okay again and then I could continue my day. So I noticed that that was anxiety, but not until years later.
How did you get to that place to be okay? Because that's interesting that you say that, because for not knowing that it was anxiety, equating it to fear, but it was anxiety, not to get that praise or to be good enough to have that pressure. Because I felt that I've had that similar pressure as well growing up in my household, where I did want my parents to be proud of me. I did want that approval from my pops. And I knew as the baby boy that a lot of responsibility was going to fall on me, and I didn't want it at the time. because I didn't want it to be criticized or judged that I'm doing it wrong.
Right.
So, how did you get? Okay, let me back up before I ask you that. Did you were you ever able to talk to a counselor or a support group, or was that even on your radar at that time to share what you were going through?
It wasn't even on my radar because I didn't think it was I thought it was all in my head. I thought you just need to get it together. Like you got this, you're strong and us as black women specifically, for
Mm-hmm.
some reason, I don't care if you're a teenager, if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, we have this thing where we think that we have to be strong all on our own. We have to push it through, like, we just gotta do it. Like, just do it. Doesn't matter how hard it is, like, you can do it, just do it. And
They
so it
they
never
they,
occurred to me.
they call that the superwoman syndrome.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
And
I
we
learned
like,
that.
we will just, like, push it through and suffer and get it, and yes, absolutely, we most certainly can do it. No doubt about it, we can. Being able to do something doesn't mean that you should do it.
Mm.
And most certainly we can push through, we can get through it, but I think it leaves residual pains. It leaves residual things that come back to bite us later. And so for me, in those moments, no, I didn't realize that's what it was, but I felt like I had to do something to help myself snap out. And for me, it was exercising. So I exercised a lot and I was a theater major. So there was always yoga, and whenever I went to theater classes, something about the yoga that we do and the Pilates and the breathing exercises, I never knew that it was a calming thing for people with anxiety. Never
Mhm.
linked the two, but something about doing those classes and doing the exercises, it just calmed me. It was like it took me to another place of just calm.
That was your go-to for the anxiety or the fear, but it was mostly anxiety. It wasn't fear. It was just the anxiety of the pressure of the heaviness that you had to carry, that burden that you had to
Right.
carry. Was there anything else that you did? Or was that your main go-to? Is like, okay, I'm gonna exercise, I'm gonna go to yoga, I'm a theater major, I'm gonna go dance, I'm a journal. Were there any other things that you learned on your own to help you relieve or get to that baseline of calm for you?
So if I'm being honest, those were the things that were the healthy things that helped, but I most certainly did things that were unhealthy that helped temporarily.
Okay.
And then once I came back to it, it was no longer helping. So just, drinking was so, I mean, as soon as I got to college, I think is where more things started to present themselves because I was no longer under that umbrella of being at home and, having somebody to kind of smooth things over if I thought things weren't good. So, and you go off to college or the military, whenever you leave home, it's like you're on your own. And so I finally got out and on my own, and that fear, that gripping fear, that anxiety was so prevalent. I would drink, I would go to parties, and if there was a party and there was alcohol, I was there because I knew that I could just go, 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 go. And I would, all the thoughts, all the fear, all the thoughts in general were going to go away, at least temporarily. And that
Right.
was enough for me at that moment. So sometimes it would just get so bad that was just it was okay. It was okay for me to not think about it just for a short period of time. Granted, when I woke up the next morning, didn't feel so great, and the problems were still there. So,
Right.
but in all honesty, yes, those were my two: the yoga, the exercising, and the drinking.
That's hearing your story so far is I it's what did they call it? Neotypical. It's or atypical. I gotta look that up. My wife be telling me so many new terms I'm learning as she's a rec therapist, uh, and I'm trying to figure out which one is the traditional and which one is not. Because I hear when I go to speak in when I do HNI meetings, hospitals and institutions, going to the correctional facility, the detention centers, a lot. I'm hearing more of, hey, I this is what I did. This is how I coped. This is how I had to keep myself calm and balanced because there was no other way. There was no access to resources of a counselor, of a support group, of a therapist, and especially in the minority communities, in the African American communities where that is frowned upon because it's stigmatized as you're crazy or like and even in my household, pray about it. Okay, that's good, but there's this there's a guy that was got stranded and he was in a lifeboat and they tell the story about okay there was just the helicopter came I'm waiting for God, but there was this cruise liner that came
Yeah.
I'm waiting for God, and it's
He's
like
sending
God
all
sent
these
all he's
people.
sending all of those. And that's
Yes,
what
exactly.
and I think people forget that yes, God is all and all powerful and can do all things, but he sends people to help. He's
Absolutely.
always used people to help. So it's just I'm hearing your story and it's I'm in awe because you're dealing with all of these things on your own. On your own. And I know, okay, were you able to call home and be like, Mom, Dad, I'm going through something?
Oh gosh, no. Not not at all, not at all. I will say this though, because I share this part of my story with teenagers all the time, because even though I didn't realize what I was going through, and I knew I was going through something, and I knew that the drinking was I was using that drinking to cope, and I knew that it wasn't good, but it was a something. And I'll never forget my mom. Now, remember, I come from a Pentecostal household.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom called one day, and I would avoid their calls, especially when I knew I was getting ready to go and get tore slam up. I
Absolutely.
just would ignore the calls. And so
Me
my mom
me too.
called. She called, and I was in my dorm room. And I would hide alcohol like in my dorm like little closet. And she called me and she said, "Sharice, God woke me up and I need for you to open up that closet and get rid of that." And I thought, I must be really, really tore up because there's no way she could know that there is like I'm looking all around my dorm, like thinking, is my mom hiding somewhere? Like, does God have some cameras somewhere?
Right.
But I it was it was terrifying and humbling all at the same time because it wasn't in anger that she called me. It wasn't in fussing, it wasn't in yelling, but it was a and you know my mom, like her tone is very calm. It was a very calming
Mm-hmm.
tone. It was just almost to say it was like God was saying, "I see you and I know what you're doing and I know why you're doing it, but it's not the way to do it." And I never forgot that moment because it was the moment where I felt like I feel like I'm drowning, and in no way would I wasn't even thinking about God. I was not thinking that God was thinking about me, but at that moment it was like he's here. He's
Mm-hmm.
still with you. He still sees you. He still knows what's going on, but you have free will. So you're doing whatever you want to do, but this is just to let you know he's still here.
How old were you when that happened? When you got that phone call from your mom?
I think it was my second year
Okay.
in college. That was my second and my last because I ended up like quitting college. I was just like, nope.
Not for you. Yeah, yeah, I've been there. I've
Not
also
for me.
been, and I could relate to. Oh man, I could relate to the mom, and I can relate to that story because every time I feel like it's like, how did like I'm looking for stuff? Is she bugging? Like, is this wires? Does she got a listening device? Like, can she see? So like,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
it would be that discernment or that presence of God calling them, and it's like, okay, 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 and it would catch me, especially when I was using in my heavy addiction days. It would catch me right when I did not want it to, right when that I was trying to get used and to get as high as I possibly could to cope or to mask whatever I was feeling or or escape or to feel better. I will always get a call from my mama and or a text message, and then it would never stop. So I'm with you. It would just be relentless.
Yeah,
But that was just God intervening, throwing intercession. Like, hey, like you said, you have free will, but you don't need to go that route.
right.
You don't. Was that was that your biggest? Because I've had moments of clarity many a times, and spiritual awakenings, moments of clarity. I think they're the same where God is speaking to me through other people or just my surroundings in general. Was that the one that for you, when your mother called, gave you what God gave her? Was that the one for you that made you, okay, I'm washing my hands of the drinking? Or was there other ones?
That would be so nice, and the story would be like, "Oh, this is a fairy tale, great." No, no. When my mom called me that day, yes, it shook me up enough to I did not do anything that night. But the next night came and it was just, it was a repeat. Like
Yeah.
I heard it, I knew it was there, and yes, I felt it at that moment. But it didn't. It wasn't enough because I was still going through things, and it didn't resolve the issue. It let me know that she was there. It let me know that God was there, and that was great. But it wasn't enough for me to stop.
Mm.
And again, when you don't realize you have a problem, when you don't it, the drinking wasn't the source of the problem.
It was a symptom. It was a
It
symptom.
right,
Right.
right. And so I never knew that there was a problem. I didn't know that this anxiety is what was causing that. There were therapists all over the campus, but if you don't know that you need a therapist,
Mm.
if it's ingrained in you that the mental issues that are happening with you, it's all in your mind. Like it's all you. It's not a thing. Why would you seek help?
Mm.
And how would you realize that what you're doing is coping with an issue that you don't even realize is an issue?
That's very profound that you say that. I hear that a lot, and I say that I've said that to people as well when I speak. Is you don't know what you don't know, and how can you get help when you don't know that there's a issue, and then when you want to reach out for help, is you're judged
Right,
or it's not popular. It's and then, oh, I can't see what you're going through, like,
right,
but I can see that you're, like you said, you're lazy or you're unmotivated or you don't have any ambition. Like, no, that's not the case.
right.
Um, I have ambition. I was in treatment one time and they was like, you have to be disciplined and structured. I was like, I was in my addiction and in my mental health challenges. I was structured enough to get up and go get another one. You know what I mean? Like, I had discipline to go do that. So it's just learning a different behavior, and it's all learned behavior. Um, okay, so speeding up to not then college wasn't for you at the time.
Right,
Understanding that, okay, there is understanding that, okay, there God is trying to speak to me. There is something wrong. And understanding that you knew something was wrong, even though you didn't know something was wrong. I
right,
think that's very, very, man, that just that who I don't even have a word for that right now, because I feel like a lot of us feel that way where in our spirit, in our core, we know something's wrong, but we don't know something's wrong, or we can't label it or put a
right.
word to it to describe it. Um, when you meeting your husband and understanding, because I can relate to that too, as doing two tours and that whole going to the military and being in that type of environment, that type of theater where it's unpredictable and it's chaotic. You lose yourself a little bit. When you started to see your husband in that PTSD, and when I say PTSD, anxiety, depression, guilt, shame, all of that falls under that umbrella. How did that help you be mentally stable? Because that takes a lot of strength to deal with someone like us coming back from those different types of theaters, seeing what we've seen, doing what we had to do. How did you keep your mental stability through that part of it?
So I think it was actually better. It sounds weird, but I think it was actually better, or I don't want to say easier, but I'd say better
Mm-hmm.
at that point, only because at now I know. Now I know what this thing is because I see it in my husband. I know that it's a real thing. So now the light bulb goes off. Like, okay, I see that this is a real thing. Mental health issues are for real. And I need to work on helping my husband to get some real help because it's something that he can't fix on his own. I can try as much as I want to, but I can't fix it for him. He can't fix it for him. We need to get some professional help. I am a researcher like nobody's business. And so when I realized after the conversation that he had with me, almost in tears, like if I could fix this for myself, I would. That was when the light bulb went off for me. That was when the researcher came and said, okay, where can we get some help? Where is mental health help? Who can help us? And because that light bulb turned on that this was really a thing, then it made it okay that I realized I needed some help too.
Mm,
Like I'm helping him, and of course, like he at this moment, he was more important. And it was because I could see what it was doing to him. It's easier to see it in other people than it is in yourself.
right.
But then I got to see, okay, there's something going on here too. And I will say the military kind of helped because there were so many resources available to soldiers and their spouses, and it was things that were free. So even though I knew that this was an issue, even though I knew it was a problem, there was still this little part of me that felt like I'm about to pay somebody to talk to me. I don't know about that.
Mm-hmm.
But the military, in this aspect, the military made it a little bit easier because there were free resources for spouses, and it allowed me to go and see someone without having to come out of pocket and realizing just how imperative it was. Just how much of a difference it made to talk to a therapist for myself. Had it not been for my husband and the issues that he was going through when he got back from his deployments, I don't think I ever would have seen a therapist. I don't think I would be able to sit with you today and talk about these things had it not been for that.
Excuse me. That's a blessing. I feel like that's a blessing. I feel like that is. I believe in how God works, even when we don't know that He's working, even though we can't see that He's working. He's always working, and we might not even understand it. And like, man, okay, Sharice, I hear you. Like, man, your husband had to go through that, and you had to go through what you had to go through, but you had to see it in him to see it in yourself to get like, yep, that's how it works
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
That is how it works sometimes because, like Sharice said, she's thankful for this what her husband had to go through because now in turn she can get help researching for her husband and for herself, and then they can do it together, and it's a community effort. It's spouse helping spouse, husband and wife helping each other to be better for one another and their family. And I love that because I know for me it took a long time. I used to recoil because I was so angry, I was so hurt, I was so lost. Was there a time where because I know in mental health it gets tough. I know in mental health,
Get tough, it
yes.
starts.
Thank you. It starts tough. It starts tough. Could you give any resources that you found for yourself and for your husband that you like for you, that work for you? Because everybody recovery journey and resources is different. What might work for me might not work for you and vice versa. But could you give anything that worked for you and your husband that you would suggest?
Yeah, so like I said, the therapy from the get-go was most certainly, and I think a lot of times people, spouses, and especially in the military, spouses, we tend to forget about ourselves. So I say, especially the military. I know all spouses in general are kind of that way, especially wives. I don't know exactly how it is for husbands because I'm not a husband,
Mhm.
but what we do is we try to take care of everybody else. So let's take care of daddy. Let's take care of kids. Let's take care of dog. Let's take care of cat. We take care of everybody else, and we don't take care of ourselves. And so if I could give any piece of advice to the spouse, is that don't forget about yourself. You cannot save a drowning person if you are drowning too.
Mm,
You have to take care of yourself. And it took me, even though I realized that something was going on with me mentally after everything was happening with my husband, it still took me a while to really work on myself. Like I could go to therapy for a few times and I could see a difference, but it wasn't as important to me to work on myself because it was all about my family. And I think that's the top thing, is really to take care of yourself. Get therapy for yourself. Do things for yourself. Find hobbies that you enjoy for yourself. Be selfish. It's
mm.
okay to be selfish and take care of yourself. You can only pour into other people out of the overflow that you have. If you're empty, you got nothing to give.
Oh, I like that. I amen to that. I appreciate that part of it. You say take care of yourself, and that asked the question. A question came to me is where did that courage come from? Because it takes courage and strength to get up off of where you are and to be like, you know what? I need therapists. I need treatment. I need tools. I need resources. I might even need medication. Where did that courage come from for you and your husband? Because it takes courage and strength to I need help. And then on top of that, it's not an easy road to navigate because every therapist, counselor does not have your best interest at heart. So I guess I'm asking, where did that courage come from? And then how do y'all maintain that courage and that strength to get up to be like, hey, it's time, babe. We got to talk to someone, or we need to move on from this person to go find this person. Let's check out this support group. Let's see what other resources. Let's check this one out, because that takes strength and courage. I was a co-facilitator with NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, and we do a facilitating group here in Pitt County. And I asked one of the people that came in for the group, because he was very focused on the glass, on what she didn't have, and I'm like, let's talk about what you do have. What courage? What made you get up to come here today? Because something gave you strength to get out of your negativity or your trials and tribulations. Something got you up to be like, I need to go there. I need to go hear what they're saying. I need to see if it's for me. Where does that come from you and your husband? How do y'all maintain that?
So I think it's been a long time coming. Every year that passes, it's like little nuggets that we get. And and every year it's a new little nugget and a new little nugget. Like every time something happens and you get like little pieces of things, and I think it's just a culmination of things that happen over the years. um for me, like I said, I've gone to some therapies here and there. I read a lot, and so reading books on codependency helped me. Reading psychology books helped me. Reading in general helped me because it helped me to see that there were other people who were like me. It helped me to see that I do need to do something else. I do need to take care of myself. I Even in going to church, even though I felt like the church didn't understand, I felt like it was completely different. They didn't see mental health the way that it really was. But what helped me in church was people could see that something wasn't right, and it was a I don't even know how to explain it. I guess like a discernment that people have when you're involved in a church or any kind of community like that, and people can kind of feel your spirit and that something's not quite right. Even my mom, e- even though I don't think she saw mental health the way it was, she knew that something wasn't right, and
Hmm.
it was a she would always say you fake it till you make it. So she would say make yourself look good, dress good, and there's something to that. When you try and make yourself look good, you start feeling good. And little things like that would come. The things that she would say, things that people in church, might say. Now I'm gonna give a little disclaimer.
Yes.
Everybody in church didn't say good things. Sometimes people would say stuff at church and it wasn't good things.
Right.
But for the most part, it was just little things. And it was like I felt like I said, I would just get these nuggets every so often as reminders to do something for yourself, as a reminder that you're okay. God is still with you. You're going to get through this, but you got to take some steps. And so every year it's new. Every This is like an ongoing thing. I don't know that I'll ever be 100%, but every year I learn, every year it's something new. We take every day that comes. I realize that I can't anticipate what tomorrow is going to be, or the next day, or the next month, or the next year. There's enough worries for me for today.
Yep.
So every day I'm taking it and I'm going, and it's learning new things all the time, realizing that I can do something on my own. I think for married people too, like my husband and I got married young. What were we, like 20, 21 when we got married? And so being married young, you're together a lot, and you feel like we got to do everything together. Everything's got to be me and him. Everything's got to be me, him, and the kids. Everything's got to be me and the kids. No, no, no. It's okay to do things on your own. It's
Uh,
good to do things on your own. You will find that you have joy when you do some stuff by
I'm,
yourself. I'm
I'm just
really
laughing. I'm laughing because I tell my wife that all the time. I'm like, listen, we don't have to do everything together at the same time. Like, I know, but I'm like, but babe, listen, we don't have to do everything all the time. Our schedules, one,
yeah,
ain't gonna line up like that, and we have different interests. We make it a conscious effort to do that, but it's okay if we don't.
it
It's
is.
it's okay. So that's
It
so funny that you said that because I'm laughing because we talk about that all the time, and we're new, like 2 years newly, like we're young infant in
Oh,
our
yeah,
marriage.
and that does
So
it too. It's especially the new, like, in the very beginning marriage, like, especially in the very beginning. We're like, "Oh, we're gonna do this," and it's both. It's not just a wife, but it's
right,
the wife and the husband. You're like, "Oh, we gotta do all these things together." That's great. Let's come back together for a thing together. But how about you go
yeah,
do your thing? Because I don't like what you do, and
yeah.
you don't like what I do, and that's okay.
That's okay. I'm like, because we do it in movies. We're close, but it's like, I like, because they're like, yo, why don't you want to watch this movie? I'm like, because we don't watch some of the same movies. And,
Exactly.
and, um, yeah, I do that too, because there's some things I'm like, yo, I want to do with my wife. And then some things she wants to do. And I was like, we can come together for this thing. And
Yeah, we
then,
make compromises, right? But not
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
the time. Like,
Not all
okay,
the time,
I
right.
don't wanna watch people killing people on TV all the time, but I
Right.
will make a compromise, and we will watch
Yeah.
this one movie together,
Yeah,
and you watch
same.
all the rest of them.
Yeah, I'm like that too. I'm like, "Listen,
And I'm going to watch Lifetime.
I don't wanna watch thrillers and drama. I want some comedy. I need to laugh. I need some superhero." Anyway, that's funny. I, um I commend you for what you said about the nuggets and everything that you're piecing together because I agree. Recovery is a lifelong process. And like I said in the beginning, ladies and gentlemen, it's not exclusively mental health and substance use. Recovery is what we do every day. I was experienced homelessness. I lived out of my car. I was under bridges. I lost a couple places and cars and materialistic stuff that God has blessed me to get back and then some. But it wasn't that lesson. The lesson was to appreciate what I have, to not underestimate my n- not to not to be appreciative of what I have. And that's recovery for me now. I can appreciate having a roof over my head. I can appreciate paying rent. I can appreciate taking a hot shower and brushing my teeth because at some point in time I could not do that, So, or having conversations with my best friend that I haven't talked to in years. Like that's God to me, that's God, that's Christ working, and then in letting me see that there's better for me, there's better for us. And I like that you have your faith and you just don't limit it to I believe and that's it. That's not how that really works. It's yes, I believe in the will that God has for my life no matter what. But at the same time, he's not going to give me something like just to give it to me. I have to earn it. Not only earn it, but it has to be developed and delivered to know that I can be a good steward of it, that I can take care of it and take care of this blessing. So I appreciate your faith. I appreciate how you were very transparent about, hey, sometimes the church doesn't know, and they don't. Sometimes they don't. They can. I think it's a collection of everything. I can get a scripture or a verse here. I can get taught a lesson here, but I can also sit down and talk to someone about what I'm going through. I think it's all of it. I
It
think it's
really
all
is.
of it. I believe that it is. Um, Moving forward for you and your family, when things get, when trials and tribulations come, when challenges occur, how does Sharice make sure that, and I always say mental stability, how do you keep that sharp? How do you keep it consistent? How do you not slip back into the oblivion or the mental relapse or the woe is me or the I'm gonna focus on the glass half full. Um, I'm gonna focus on what I don't have. How do you keep yourself and how do you keep your husband from falling back into that trap? Because life does present that from time to time where, oh, man, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I don't have it today. How do you keep yourself mentally motivated, spiritually motivated?
I'm gonna be honest, sometimes I don't. So sometimes it happens and it's like I can't deal with this. I can't I I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm falling apart. I'm in tears. I'm crying. I'm in the shower and tears just will not stop falling from my face because I just feel like I cannot deal. So sometimes it isn't. Sometimes I don't feel like it's a win.
Mm,
But in those moments, I let it happen. If the tears are coming, I let the tears come. If the I don't know what I'm gonna do is in my mind and in my thoughts, sometimes I just let them come. And it takes me a while. It may take me a while to get out of the slump, to get back to, okay, let's here we are. This is what's happening. This is the reality. All right, what are you gonna do? And it takes me a while sometimes. I think you and I talked one time before. Life is just it's lifing.
lifing.
It is lifing and
I
it
love
is
that.
it is just it's not rainbows and kitties all the time, and
Right.
we won't always be able to make that right decision every time, and it won't always be, "Okay, I recognize this is happening, and I'm gonna do this great thing." It's not always that way. Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it doesn't. It's the ability to get back, and having things in place. For me, it's kind of a routine of things. When I get into the things that I enjoy doing, I know that I like to read. So I have a routine that I read. At some point during the day, I read. It may be twice a day that I read. And if it's on my routine that I'm going to do, even if I'm having a bad day, it's on my routine. I'm going
Mm,
to do it. And
mm,
I know that the things that I have in my routine, some of those things are things that bring me joy myself, not things that I'm doing for my kids. I love doing things for my kids and I love to see them happy. I love doing things for my husband and I love to see him happy, but I garden, and it's something that you cannot just stop doing. So every day I do something in the garden. Even if it's a bad day, even if it's been a horrible day, I know that I have to do that garden. When I finally get my hands in that dirt, it's like something amazing. Not that I forget the bad things that are going on, but it helps to ground me and to make it through another day. And some days I have those things on my routine and it's so bad and I say I'm just not going to do it. And I don't. And I feel it the next day. And
right.
then it may be 2 days or 3 days before I finally get back to doing the thing, and we just keep it going. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I appreciate the feel it. I appreciate that. Sometimes you just have to feel it, sit with it, and let it happen. Doesn't mean necessarily that there's something that needs to be done at that moment, because I feel like that's what can spark the coping in a negative way.
Mhm.
Is okay, I need gratification right now. I
Right.
need instant gratification right now to get me out of what I'm feeling. I don't like this feeling. I don't like what was said to me. I don't like being in this situation. I'm crying. I'm mad. I'm hurt. I'm upset. I'm all of that.
Yep.
Whew. Why?
Yep.
Recognize. There was this acronym. It was called RAIN. Recognize, acknowledge, investigate, nurture, and all of that. What you said is what you did.
I like that.
Yeah, you recognized, you acknowledged it, you investigated where these feelings occurs from, then you nurtured Sharice. I love that. And that means whatever positively, positively inspirational change moving forward. You are changing the narrative of your own mental health to a positive state. I love that. And then you, not on top of that, you give yourself grace. What? No, I'm serious. That's what I heard. That's what I took from that is sometimes you just got to be in it, and sometimes you may not know the answer. And I appreciate that honesty because sometimes we don't,
Yeah.
and it's okay. I
And it's taken
appreciate.
me a while even to get there. I again, I think it goes back to growing up. I felt like I always had to have the answer. I had to
Mm.
do it right. I had to do the right thing. I had to, but it's taken years for me to get to this place, and I'm grateful. So grateful. It is not perfect by any means.
Right.
There are definitely still hard days. There are times I don't know the answer, but I'm okay with that now.
You keep your joy, and I really am grateful for that. That inspires me because we've talked off air before, and you shared pieces of your story that I'm in awe of, and you're still here. You're still your family's still here. Your faith is still here. Your Sharice is still here. I marvel at that, and I thank God for um, our reconnecting. You know, I think God puts people in your life for a season, and good, bad, or indifferent. There's always something to be learned and taken from. And I appreciate that. Question for you, and we got about 6 minutes. Would you, knowing what you know now, where you are now, knowing that recovery, knowing that your mental stability, your spiritual stability, your emotional, your physical, all of that is a lifelong process that is not perfect, that takes pursuit every day to get into that garden. I love that analogy. I have to get into my garden, good, bad, or indifferent. I have to get into my garden. Would you change anything?
As much as I'd like to say that I would, because I'd like for it to be all rainbows and kitties. No, no, I don't think I would. It's been a journey. It has not all been fun, but I think the things that I've learned along the way have not only helped to make me into the person that I am, but I think I've been able to help other people as well. I'm grateful for the knowledge that I've gained. I'm No, I don't think I would.
Good. Good, because I get that a lot too when I share. I tell people, and people look at me with the what face, like the question mark face, like all that you've been through, the overdoses, the homelessness, the losing of friends, the losing of reputation, relationships. You wouldn't change any, you wouldn't do it over. I'm like, no, because it was God's plan for me to. This was His way for me to become closer to Him, and I always it gets me under His grace always. He's not going to remove that thorn because that thorn keeps me under his grace, and I'm okay with that. I'm
Yeah.
okay. Now,
Now,
I'm not
in the
going
moment, it feels
right,
like crap.
right.
Don't ask me in the moment because I'm gonna be
No,
like, yeah, I don't want to do this no
I don't
more.
want to do this no more. I don't want it. I don't want it. I'm with you. I would ask God, like, why?
Yeah.
And now it was the what. It was, oh, okay, because I'm supposed to be here. We're supposed to be here giving people this, being of service to give them hope because God gave us hope and now we're supposed to be grateful and be and have a responsibility to return that hope. Like
Oh, yes.
y'all are making it through and y'all went through all of that. Yep. Not perfect, but we're
Yeah.
always in pursuit of. And I think that's just beautiful. And you've given a lot of different things that you're grateful for, but I need two more things. And I know you can't limit it to two because it's hard because me too. But I try like when I go speak and I like to end things on a because I tell people whenever you are in a funk, whenever you are going through life, when life is lifing, I love that. Me and my wife say that all the time now. I got that from my Sharice. She's like, because it used to be the trials and tribulations, life on life terms, but when life is lifing, I like that. You better coin that. uh
Trademarking it.
you got it. That is Sharice's. I always tell people when life is life and when life is heavy, say out loud what you're grateful for, and that can kind of for the most part pull you back into reality, like, man, and make you sit still for a little bit and be like, oh, okay, there are some good aspects of my life that are happening. So give me a couple things that you're grateful for.
So, I am grateful for. I know it's kind of vague, but I'm grateful for where I am today. I'm grateful that I have a job that I enjoy. I'm grateful that the side hustle that I have, I'm able to help people to open up their businesses, to do things that they really want to do. I'm so grateful that I'm able to do that for people. I'm grateful for my family. I think my family has taught me so much. And when I say my family, I mean my husband and my kids. It's funny how we can learn if we let ourselves, we can learn things from our children. My kids
Mm,
teach me stuff every day.
that part.
And I'm so grateful for that.
That part. Yeah, me and my wife talk about that all the time. Is like I learn so much from my children. I learn from anyone. Just open mindedness to learn and not be so stern and so prideful that I can't learn from anyone else because I am the quote unquote elder statesman. That's how the hierarchy goes on my side of the family. It's like you can learn things, not only what you asked me, but I do have my experiences, and this is how I dealt with them, and you know, right or wrong, uh, You could take some from it. You could take
Yeah.
something, bits and pieces from everybody, and take what you want, leave the rest. So, uh, listen, I would love for you to come back. I want you to come back. I would love for you to be a recurring guest. That probably is what's going to happen in the next season, in season 3. Is I'll start doing recurring guests, and I would love for you to be back because I know there's a lot of things that I would love to touch on. I would love to talk to you about, and because there's different aspects of life that we didn't even get to touch on just yet. How you got through and navigated that through your mental health, through your faith, and through Christ. So, um, but this was fantastic, Sharice. Again, I am honored, and I am so grateful for you being here today and sharing your experience, strength, and hope, and your testimony, and being a light stand, a lighthouse. So thank you for
You're
that.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Listen, of course, we're going to get you back up here, but listen, until next time, I love you very much, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, peace.
Bye.
See, ladies and gentlemen, it's what we do here, play the tape. There are people that'll jump in that pit with you because they know the way out. If no one hasn't told you today that they love you, I love you, we love you. Today is always going to have its challenges. With understanding comes peace. With peace comes hope. With hope comes love. With love comes faith. And with that is recovery. We can do this together. I do it with y'all. Y'all do it with me. I'm excited about this journey that we're about to go on, that we're embarking on right now in this moment. I thank you for listening. I thank you for watching. Until next time, peace.